Okay, hello everyone, and little video that I've made for you just to explain the work that you're going to do this week. We're just going to do a little bit of work this week on volume. This will finish off the block of work that we've been looking at. I'd imagine for most of you this is revision. You'll have seen this at primary school. So we're not going to talk about the whole counting cubes and how much space something takes up idea. We're literally just going to go straight into looking at volumes of cubes and cuboids. Okay. Now, the first thing I want us to consider is this cuboid here. So we've got a cuboid here where we have three sides. We're told that one side is 3 centimetres, one side is 5 centimetres, and one side is 6 centimetres. And I'm sure you'll take my dodgy drawing for just being a cuboid there. Now, another thing I want to remind you of is what our good answer looks like. We spoke about this when we did area and circumference of a circle. We've spoken about this for a few different things. Remember, the good thing is we always need to start with a formula, and hopefully you'll remember from before, you should have seen this work before, that the volume of a cuboid is the length of the cuboid times its breadth and times its height. So V equals L times B times H. And you and I both know that we like to write as little as possible in maths sometimes, so you might also see it written as V equals LBH without the time signs there, because we know that where letters are together it means that they're multiplying. So that's our first thing done. Our good answer starts with a formula. There's the formula that we're using. The next thing we're asked to do is put the information in. So looking at my cuboid that I've been given in the example, its length is 3, its breadth is 5, and its height is 6. So we've got 3 times 5 times 6. Now remember, it doesn't matter if you put these numbers in a different order. If you move that cuboid about, turn it upside down, put it on its end, it's still going to have the same volume. So if you wrote 5 times 6 times 3 instead here, or 6 times 3 times 5, it's not going to matter. We're going to get the same answer. Now, when we're left with this bit of the calculation, if it's a calculator question, that's fine. Let's just put the numbers in our calculator and get an answer. If it's not, in occasion, you might need to decide what way is easiest to do this question. 3 times 5 would be 15. 15 times 6, might not be able to do that in my head very easily. Let's try doing the 5 times 6 first. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 times 3 is 90. But it doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we get our answer. Now, answer, but with units. We're working in centimetres in this question, so I've got my centimetres down there, but it's a volume, so it's cubic centimetres. So 90 centimetres would be cubed, would be our answer. So if we go back to our, this is basically our success criteria here. What does a good answer look like? We have a formula. Yep, we've got that. I've got the information from the question. Yes, we've got that. And I've got my answer with my units. So that is perfect. That's what we're looking for. Okay, let's have a look at another question. Let's do another little example. Let's just get a bit of space. Let's have a cuboid this time that maybe looks a little bit different. It's kind of long and skinny, maybe like a book or a DVD box or something. And this time I'm going to tell you that this length here is 10 millimeters, that the breadth here is 25 millimeters, and that our height is 50 millimeters. Okay, so first thing we needed to do, we said, was put down the formula. So the formula, which we'll need to remember eventually, but we can use by looking at the textbook or looking at a past example at the moment, is LBH, length times breadth times height. The next thing we need to do is put in the information. So this time we've got 10 times 25 times 50. So we've got our information in place there. Now, from there, we need to do this sum. 10 times 25 times 50. 10 times 25 is 250, and we're multiplying that by 50. Up to you how you do it. Some of you will do this by long multiplication. Some of you will multiply it by 10 and then multiply it by 5. That tends to be how I would do it. Okay, so if we multiply it by 10, we would get 2,500. So we've times by 10, and we still need to times by 5. 0, 0, 5 5s are 25, 5 2s are 10, and 2 is 12. On some occasions, you would be able to use a calculator for that. So if there's any tricky ones in the work that I've set you, remember you could use a calculator, but let's try and do as much of it without a calculator, without a calculator as we can. So we've got our answer, 12,500. And this time we need to look at our units. This time you'll notice it's in millimetres, so we're going to have millimetres cubed. Okay, and that is how we do these. I don't think you're going to find this bit too difficult, but I want to look at one final type of question with you today. Okay, so what happens if I give you another cuboid, but we've got to think about it in a slightly different way. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that the length of the cuboid is 5 centimetres, that the breadth of the cuboid is also 5 centimetres, but we don't know the height of the cuboid. But what else we do know is I'm going to tell you that the volume of this cuboid is 100 cubic centimetres. Okay, so we've got a slightly different amount of information here. We've been given the volume this time, and we're going to have to use that to help us work out the height. Now in maths I always tell you, and it doesn't change just because you're not sitting in the classroom in front of me, I always tell you to write down what you know about this situation first of all. So we've got the volume of a cuboid here, so let's write down the formula for the volume of a cuboid. Length times breadth times height, LBH. Now, the next thing I would always tell you to do, and it was in our kind of success criteria at the start here, what happens next in this question? We put in the information that we know. So we know the length is 5, and we know the breadth is 5, and we know the volume V is 100. So we can replace the volume V with 100, and we can replace the length and the breadth with 5, and let's just keep calling the height H. Okay, you could call it X, you can call it whatever you want, you can draw a caret there, okay, but we need to have something to mark what the height is. Now, we've got 100 equals 5 times 5 times H. Well, I know what 5 times 5 is. 5 times 5 is 25. So 25 times H then is going to give me 100. Or we might write that as 25H equals 100. Okay, now we have to cast our minds back to another topic that we've done quite recently, which is algebra and solving equations. It was one of the last ones we did in class together. This is 25 times h, 25h equals 100, but we don't want 25h, we want h on its own, so we need to think about doing our opposites to get h on its own. How do we get h on its own? We don't want it multiplied by 25, so we're going to divide it by 25, but if we do that to one side, we've got to do it to the other. 25 divided by 25 gives me 1, so I'm left with 1h, which is what we wanted. We wanted to work out the height. And 100 divided by 25, how many hundreds go into 25? The answer, how many 25s go into 100, sorry? The answer would be 4. So that's telling me that the height of this cuboid is 4. Okay, those 3 examples are hopefully enough for you to get on with the work this week. But if there's anything you're not sure about, send me a little message on Show My Homework or on email, and I'll make you up another little video or a wee explanation to help. Have a good week.